If you didn't like my take on Tomlin, you might want to strap yourself in for this one. In January 2009, following the 2008 season, Ben Roethlisberger, who played an above average game, um, had a last drive for the ages and won his first Super Bowl. A lot of folks like to say he won the one in 2005, but let's be honest. Old Benny was along for the ride on that one. Did more to hurt the team than help, and frankly, needed to stay out of the way. And we gave him a mulligan, just like we gave Terry in Super Bowl IX. Terry obviously had a little more positive impact on that Super Bowl, but still only threw 16 passes. He did throw the winning touchdown, but pretty modest by all accounts. So we gave him a pass, and in 2008, of course, Ben came through, man. That last drive with a shitty offensive line, which has become the hallmark of Mike Tomlin's tenure, and a bunch of penalties, which has become the hallmark of Mike Tomlin's tenure. Roethlisberger still some way, somehow found a way. Now, Tone dropped that first touchdown pass, which was a whole lot easier to catch, but then acquitted himself pretty well on a pass that almost no quarterback would throw and a catch almost no receiver could make. And after that game, Ben Roethlisberger decided he no longer needed to be coached. Kenny Anderson will tell you so. That's the reason Ken Anderson left the team after that season. And then would come the parade of horseshit horseshit quarterback coaches and ultimately horseshit offensive coordinators, because Roethlisberger was absolutely instrumental in getting Todd Haley fired, the last offensive coordinator under whom we had a productive offense or even an NFL caliber offense. But that was because Ben Roethlisberger didn't like Todd Haley. And what we saw happening from that season on was a guy who, not long after that Super Bowl in Milledgeville, Georgia, got his character exposed, among other things. And what we saw in the 2010 season following his suspension was a good regular season quarterback who, frankly, wasn't big enough for the big moments, and somehow was handed a gift over the New York Jets to get to the Super Bowl and following the 2010 season, and completely cratered in the first half, and then couldn't manage a first down with 1:47 to go. And since then, up until retirement, it was this cavalcade of what Ben wanted. And Ben, after every loss, puking out that absolute horseshit. Pablum, I need to play better. We all need to play better. It's on me. I take the credit for this loss. I've got to get better. And then did nothing about practicing harder. As a matter of fact, insisted on veteran days off, which, if you're a responsible veteran, you know that the last thing that veterans need is time off from practice. They have to work even harder. See Brady, Tom, Manning, Peyton. They have to work even harder as they get longer in their careers, not take days off in order to continue to play at a high level. But Roethlisberger was never about that. And his character having been exposed, I think between us kids, me and Ben knew that Ben was never getting us back to that mountain again. And the fact of the matter is, he didn't. And we didn't even sniff a Super Bowl thereafter. There were a lot of huge upsets. There were some games some playoff games where he made it look like were competitive after spotting the other team a couple touchdowns or maybe 17 points or what have you. But somehow, after the big show, after the other defense relaxed and said, okay, well, wait a minute, now we got to be serious, it was always a loss. It was always a loss. And it ended up that the only teams we could beat in the playoffs were patsies, like the Bengals or the Browns. And then it turned out that we couldn't even beat them. And then it turned out that we were throwing 3-yard passes all the time. We were throwing 3-yard passes all the time because Benny's arm was shredded from 2017 on. And of course, we hired Mike Tomlin's former lackey, Randy Fichtner, to put in chicken ball so Roethlisberger could both throw 3-yard passes and not get hit. Because, of course, Ben didn't want to get hit because he won a Super Bowl back in 2000 whatever. Yeah. So here's what happened. We experienced 10 years of folks saying, oh, well, Ben kept us in it. Ben's the reason we're even competitive. Ben's. All right, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But if he's the reason we're competitive and you want to give him credit for that, you need to also give him credit for losing the games. You need to also give him credit for being dump trucked by the Cleveland Browns, for being outscored by Blake Bortles. You need to give him credit for those things. You need to give him credit for the late game interceptions that he was constantly throwing, that he would blame on this receiver running the wrong route, and he should never have thrown to Juju Smith-Schuster, and Antonio Brown was the problem. Because Ben won a Super Bowl a dozen years ago. He had one good postseason and one good Super Bowl. And that's all wonderful. But let's face it. Ben was a selfish sack. Ben only cared about Ben. Ben didn't give up extra work for the team. Ben said that everybody needed days off. Ben didn't look at what he did in the playoffs and come back the following year with a better plan. Ben totally sucked, put the offense to bed in the first half, and before you know it, it was a blowout. And now, it's the nightmare that won't go away, because he's got his Pittsburgh podcast, footballing, and now he's critiquing players and he's critiquing Tomlin's coaching, which, hey, I'm all for that, but first he was, Justin Fields deserves to keep the job, and so on and so on. Russ goes out and balls, and suddenly, Ben Roethlisberger's in his court. I'm sick and effing tired of hearing from Ben Roethlisberger. He gave us a dozen years of excuses why he couldn't get it done. He never fessed up to the fact that he got Todd Haley fired. He never fessed up to the fact that he had that nitwit Randy Fichtner piped in. He never fessed up to the fact that he owned the whole Matt Canada thing. Matt Canada was his lackey. Fichtner was his lackey. And we haven't had a decent NFL offense for years now because of Ben Roethlisberger. So pardon me, Ben. Pardon me. I call you a big bum because you were a big effing bum. You, like Tomlin, inherited a wealth of riches, and you squandered them by not working hard, by not giving your all, by not setting the right example, and most of all, not playing well in big games. So tell you what, Ben, I don't need to hear your opinions on other players. You can't even create a decent, objective opinion of yourself. You're not a football guy. You're just a big guy with a big ego who did small things for 12 years. I don't want to hear what you have to say about quarterbacks. You don't know the first thing about quarterbacks. You don't really know the first thing about much at all.